All right, we all good? All right, can you guys hear me on this?
Oh yeah.
That's good. Ben, mic check. You're good? All right, we're sweet. All right, we're good. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Chris Alaimo.
And I'm Ben Gassaway. Together, we are the Amateur Investors.
This podcast is our open source journal of everything we learn about investing and wealth management.
We're here to explore the key concepts, market dynamics, and investing strategies that will assist you on the path toward financial independence and financial literacy. Our mission is to build us up from amateurs to experts.
All suggestions are our own, and we recommend that you do your own research before taking any investment advice. See you in this week's episode. We hope you enjoy it. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Amateur Investors. Ben and I are here with Kit Stanwood. She's a lifestyle blogger and a meditation specialist, meditation podcaster. My apologies. Kit follows investing in yourself, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and also financially in Bitcoin. So Ben and I, as you guys know, are Bitcoin maximalists. Kit, thank you so much for coming on this episode. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Chris. And thank you, Chris and Ben, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you. All right. Yeah. So as much as our time, we focus on like the financial aspect of things. I know Ben and I are really big into, stock market, Bitcoin, real estate. As we like to invest in those different things, I know we really neglect investing ourselves. Me, especially during the pandemic, physically, I've neglected myself. So not investing as much into that as I would like. But yeah, even just mentally, spiritually, physically, stuff like that. So I know you have a really good tweet that you posted and pinned to your page. So how can you take us through some of that? I know normally I should be reading in bed, but I'm looking at my phone on Twitter because it's pretty addicting, or just any social media for that matter of factly. So what are your recommendations?
Oh yeah, definitely. So going off of that, there's that hierarchy of needs where we've got like self-actualization, we've got esteem, we've got belonging and love that we need. But then at the bottom, the more important ones like safety and just like basic food and water and rest, we neglect a lot of that. I feel like a lot of people are really good at the top needs of that. Yeah. And that's kind of where like the mental and physical and financial health come into play. And that's kind of why I started focusing on the mental health, because if you can get your mind right, everything else comes to you. And then you can just create your future and your reality from having a good mental health. So that's really why I wanted to start making the meditations for people. And I focus on a lot of things like sleep meditations, guided visualizations. I also do healing ones too. So inner child ones, which people might not even think of visiting, something like that. But I also have one that's kind of cool. That's how to start a business.
That's awesome.
I'm venturing out into different ones.
That's cool.
Could you walk us through one of those meditations, maybe one that you most enjoy walking through? Is there one that you found that is, profoundly maybe inspirational or insightful for either yourself or for a client? Which maybe walk us through one of those meditations, not for us to do it per se, but sort of what that meditation process looks like.
Right. So in the beginning, I kind of do an introduction of lay down, relax all your muscles. And then I do a breathing exercise, which is just kind of a count off, breathe in for 5 and out for 5 for a 6 counter, something like that. And so after that, then I start just kind of saying affirmations of you're getting sleepier, you're relaxing into your body. Sometimes it could also be a body scan as well. And I just think the sleep ones are really great because a lot of people need to be on a sleep schedule and they're not. And you can get so much more into your day if you're on, if you need 6 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep, you kind of figure that out. I found that I was oversleeping. Some days I was doing 10 or 12 hours and then my body just really needs 6. And then I have more time to consume podcasts and YouTube videos and financial information when I figure that out and just kind of schedule my life around that a little bit better. So meditation is just so it's interesting how it bleeds into all different like aspects of your life and helps you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to your point about the thinking about it in a hierarchy of need, I've never really thought about it or seen it represented like that. But I would imagine that it's pretty easy just to like go to the numbers, at least for me. Like I as like a sort of a finance focused guy, like you're checking at your retirement accounts, your investment accounts. You're like, okay, the Bitcoin number is going up. That's good news. But is the Ben number improving in terms of mental health? Sort of the things that are not necessarily qualitative, because I'm sure there's some measurement to measure it. It's like how droopy are my eyes today? But I find it really fascinating, like investing in yourself to allow you to do other things. Maybe like I'd love to hear what your aha moment was to even begin exploring this, I guess, way of life really is investing in yourself and meditating and being mindful of oneself. Was there an aha moment that you can think of?
Yeah, definitely. And so just to go off of a point that you said, it is measurable. You just like every day you can ask yourself on a level from 1 to 10, like, how do I feel today? And that's your point. And then for me, like my aha moment was when I was going to these corporate jobs all the time. And I was asking myself that question on a scale from 1 to 10, how do I feel? And I was just like, not so great. So what can I do? So I started to like, focus a lot more on my blog. I was going to like influencer events. I was trying to create more content and do stuff outside of work, which was really fun. But then I'd be like back at work 9 to 5. And so like I was eating better. I was doing all these different things. And like really the honest answer and solution to that is financial freedom. I needed to start figuring out how am I going to like create a passive income? How am I going to make money that I'm doing something that is mine, my own little business, or, eventually it would grow into like a bigger business, but something that was mine that I'm putting all my time and effort into instead. So you're like fulfilling your life's purpose at that point, and that makes you feel really good. And that kind of solves everything at that point.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I have noticed, at least when I feel like I've gotten the right amount of rest, because personally, I feel like I need 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep, which like a lot of people think I'm neurotic for being able to do that.
Yeah.
It's certainly like loosely to tightly caffeine induced to a degree. But when you get the right amount of sleep and you're just on it, you can really fine tune out some of the minutia and the distractions. I feel like that's the biggest thing about every day. The hardest part of the day are the distractions. Like if you have the intention of being productive, as in producing something, creating your own assets, being mindful, that's a great goal. Even just to sit down and meditate and think. Very few people give themselves the time to do that. And I'm very aware that I don't do that as well. It's so easy to like have to want to work to fill the time, or even just to watch Netflix. You're not allowing your mind to be free. So having that checkpoint, I'm already getting inspired just to go meditate after this episode.
Good.
So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm a strong believer in doing what feels good for your body. So like, you don't have to do like recommendations from all these people. And like, I just feel like whatever your body needs, you're an individual, and like whatever you need, that's it. That's the answer. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I feel like a lot of people are realizing like society's pressures to do something, even to the 8 hours of sleep. It's just so interesting.
Yeah. So I know in your pinned tweet, you mentioned 3 books for financial literacy. I've read 2 of the 3. So the 3 books were Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean, and then Unshakable by also Tony Robbins. I haven't read Unshakable yet. That's on my list to read. The first 2 books, Money Master the Games, probably I would recommend to anyone, all beginners. And then obviously I'm so bullish, and all of us are bullish on Bitcoin, that I recommend that probably as the second book that you should probably read. That's more niche. But I think Money Master the Game kind of shows that it's like a game and like the different aspects of investing. And I know Tony, he's, a very influential person that was able to get, top 10 of the most top money managers in the book, and hearing their sentiments about investing. So I guess what led you, aside from, we kind of got the piece of you investing to try and invest into passive income sources, but what led you into Bitcoin ultimately, and how did you end up getting there? And what was your Bitcoin journey? It's something Ben and I always like to hear from our guests.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, I love telling this story. So I heard about it in 2014 pretty early, and I remember sitting down on my blue couch in my college apartment, and I remember sitting down at my laptop and like looking at either an article, and I don't really remember like where that inception point was that I heard about it, because I have some friends now that like I know had bought it back then, and they might have told me at a party or something like that, because they were on the Silk Road and things like that back in 2014. And he told me his story the other day, which was really great. But I remember sitting down, and it was really complicated to kind of figure out how to like buy it. And talking with my friend about it, he was like, yeah, you had to like go out and like get some cards and like buy it through the website. It was just like a complicated process, but at the time, like for what he was buying, he was like,
Yeah, Mount Gox, right? That was the exchange at the time. Like I can't, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but people always say like, oh, if only I knew about Bitcoin or what have you back in the day. Would you really have been confident enough to buy Bitcoin through these exchanges? It's just,
it was so
like
complex.
even some of the means with which you can buy Bitcoin today, I'm still not comfortable with. Even like a Coinbase, which is selling data, and it's got a mobile app. But Mount Gox, you're like buying it through an email or fax. I mean, I don't even know. So, I mean, that's just fascinating that you even got exposed to it in 2014.
Yeah, he was buying some stuff off of there and was pretty motivated to get what he was buying off of there. So
Yeah, it's funny because like I said, everyone's like, oh, if I knew what Bitcoin was, it's like, yeah, no, you know what the price is now relative to what it is. Yeah, of course anyone would take the trade if you know what it is now versus then.
Right.
But exactly to Ben's sentiment, I kind of heard, the guy that spent 10,000 Bitcoins to buy pizza. I heard that story. I was like, whatever, it is what it is. Cool. Internet money. And then I remember strictly in 2017, I had a friend that was like, oh, like we should all buy Bitcoin, but they had not invested in general. Like they weren't investing in their company 401k and stuff. I'm like, okay, who takes advice from someone that doesn't invest in their company 401k or, kind of the more traditional things, but they were willing to take like a flyer on Bitcoin. And I think maybe the price was like $1,000, $2,000. And this is right in the run up when it ran up to 19,000 or 18,000, right around there, and then crashed. And then in 2017, I'm like, oh, this is Tulip Mania. This is 2017's version of Tulip Mania. This is not a real thing. This is fake. And then
how wrong you were.
What?
How wrong you were.
I know. And then come 2020, what really put me onto Bitcoin is, and I know Ben and I always mention Preston Pish. I know a lot of people know him in the space, but we love the Investors Podcast. We listen to their traditional advice of, stocks, bonds, real estate, all that. All the guests that they have on are excellent normally. And in the quarterly mastermind in 2020 in March, Preston brought up Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then he brought it up again in June. And then I was like, in June of 2020, I'm like, shit, I need to learn everything I need to know about Bitcoin. Like, I'm already late. Like, I need to learn as much as I can now. And that's really when I bought in back then. And since June of 2020, I mean, Ben and I still say we don't know enough, which is absolutely true. But we've just been on this journey of like how many podcast books or, whatever articles we can read about it to try and get there.
After that party introduction to Bitcoin in 2014, like what happened next?
What
like,
transpired?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to buy that. But like at the time I was in college still, graduating that year. And I was like doing research papers in my finance course about like Tesla and Netflix. And then I was like, oh, I bet weed stocks eventually are going to become a thing. So I started to look into that kind of stuff and kind of got distracted with that. Forgot about Bitcoin for like a few years. I think it was like 4 years ago, I started on like a spiritual journey or whatever you call it. And I started watching a lot of YouTube coaches about how to like create your own reality, and kind of, they do like meditations and other things like that. And so like after watching some of these guys for a while, I was like 2 years into doing that or so, like just started to like really understand a lot of this stuff. I like was watching one of these guys Instagram stories during the crash in 2020, and he mentioned that he got rich. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because he keeps saying he makes a YouTube video a day. And I was like, there's no way that this guy is that wealthy. Like, you can maybe get rich off of YouTube, but this guy's wealthy. And on the Instagram stories, he came out and said that he bought Bitcoin, and that's how he had done it. And I watched him for like 3 years, like every single day. He never mentioned it. And so it was just kind of like crazy, because like they also talk about how to like kind of like bring money into your life, kind of how to attract it into your life and stuff. So it was just like, this is so like ironic, but like it's doing what it's supposed to do kind of in a way. Because once I heard that, I remember like 2014, I was like, oh, like I wanted to buy it back then because I'm pretty technical. I'm an IT project manager. Like I get a lot of that stuff. I went to school for computer information systems, and I was just like, yeah, internet money, that makes a lot of sense. Like, of course it's gonna be like that. It was just like, wasn't in the spot in my life back then. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's how he got super rich and lives in the place he does and like travels and does everything. So I immediately like bought it that day. And so my 1 year like Bitcoin anniversary is coming up. I'm gonna put a tweet out and stuff on it. I think it's I put it on my calendar. I think it's the 23rd, I'm pretty sure. And
That's awesome.
so like 3:54 in the afternoon or something like that. I wrote it down. But like I made a lot of mistakes on my journey. I was on Robinhood like a lot of other people during the pandemic, and I scrolled down and I was like, oh, this looks like fun. And so, you know, I bought it on Robinhood not knowing that I couldn't take my keys off of there, or that
I also bought it on Robinhood, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah, and I hope people like see this and realize like don't do that unless like they allow you to take it off of there, which they at the current moment of recording this, they're not doing that. But they've been talking about it, but I don't know.
Talk is cheap.
Talk's cheap, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was lucky when I got into it for the most part, I guess, because like everything's just happened so fast this past year. The only like real shit coin that I got messed with was Dogecoin for fun, because I was like, oh, this is a meme that's kind of fun, and like I didn't know too much about it. Like it was just easy to buy it on like Robinhood, you know. And I was like, oh, I'll just like day trade this so I don't mess with Bitcoin, because I made money, I traded it, and like taxes this year, don't trade Bitcoin, everybody.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare when tax comes.
Yeah, that's our next episode is on taxes, actually. So it's a silent thief. We've coined that. Taxes will come up and find you.
Yeah, 100%. And so I was trading Dogecoin. I didn't lose any money there, thank goodness. I don't mess with anything other than Bitcoin today. And so was on Robinhood. Then November, I had to go back home to help out with my family. And I drove all the way from Colorado to Virginia, straight there, because it was some like family emergency. So I was like hyped up. And I listened to the Bitcoin Standard on audiobook all the way through, 14 hours of it. And that book changed my life. It changed my viewpoint on what Bitcoin was. Everything just like hit me like a brick, because the first 4 chapters is like just understanding money. And I guess I didn't really understand money, even though you think like you understand money, like you don't until you do. You think you know what it is, but you don't. And then the last 4 chapters or 5 or so are on Bitcoin. And just like learning about the structure of it, I was just like, there's no other way like any other coin is ever going to be like this one. I don't think anything's going to be better than it. And I don't know, I just got really bullish. And after that, I just started to throw everything that I possibly could into Bitcoin and self-hold and do all that stuff, because understanding the history of money and like what has happened and how people have manipulated it and stolen it, things like that.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow.
Sound money only comes around every 5,000 years. So like, you know, this is, I really view as the new sound money. Gold was at for 5,000 years prior, and then, you know, seashells and cattle and whatever they were prior to that. But I really see this as it.
Yeah, at least for the time being, right? Like I always go back to this, but in video games and even in like sci-fi movies, there's always this sort of like digital universal currency, because why introduce unnecessary friction for a global commerce system? I mean, we're talking about Earth, but you know, in multi-planetary movies, it's like everyone has to transact somehow. And Bitcoin feels like the closest thing to modern money. There's a limited supply that's, you know, theoretically infinitely divisible. So it doesn't really matter the supply. People are always like, oh, there's only 21 million. How will we ever get enough? It's like, well, you divide it because it's digital. The significant digits can just be programmed if necessary. We're not there yet for it to be necessitated, but I think it's just a brilliant concept. And in defining money is something that is so fundamentally overlooked, because you just expect it to work. Money is just a thing. It's like defining a color to a blind person. How do you do that? But taking that step to understand it fundamentally, I think is eye-opening. And you're like, wow, money is arbitrary and you just choose the next best thing. And it's starting to not look like the US dollar. And it's not a hard argument to make that. So that's pretty fascinating.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing I find fascinating about Bitcoin is that there's like no, point of contact for it. There's, he's anonymous, which I just think is brilliant because,
Yeah.
there's
I
no
have
one.
my theories on Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto. Wow, I said his name wrong. Satoshi Nakamoto. So my theory is that he mined the first million and then he realized like how powerful this was going to be. And my theory is, this is what I like to believe, that he destroyed what he mined, like whatever laptop he was doing it on or whatever device he was doing it on. He's like, all right, I really think there's only 20 million out there, that he like destroyed the first million. He's like, all right, this is lost forever. And now I'm just like everyone else. Like, I really believe that, like, yeah, he's probably got a decent stack, probably not a million, but I really like to believe he's like, all right, 21 million, I'm going to destroy the first million. And then there's 20 million cap limit. But obviously I don't know if we'll ever know. We probably won't, but that's what I like to believe really what went down.
I have a feeling that's not destroyed. I think just, I'm a firm believer in human greed. And I wouldn't be surprised if 50 years from now, the Satoshi, like conclave comes out of like the ether and they're like, we have 1 million Bitcoin, we're buying the earth. Because at that point, if they truly believe in the net value proposition of Bitcoin, you can kind of play the waiting game for that valuation thesis to play out. Like jumping in and cashing out on a $56,000, $57,000 coin, it's cheap if you have a long, time preference. So, 30, 40 years, let's say Bitcoin is $100 million per coin, you've got some swinging power there. And if one Bitcoin is worth, 100 million Satoshis, which is when it becomes the ultimate currency of the world, you've got a lot more power than it against the dollar. So I don't know, Chris, you might be right, but I'm ready for a sort of a dystopian conspiracy to come out. That'll be more fun.
My thing is he or she or they, I know he said he in the references a lot of times, but I really think it has to be a they. Like, I don't know. I don't know that one person could just figure it out, but maybe they did. They're that much smarter than me and than the rest of the world, but they see themselves as like, they're a threat to the globe, like to governments, to a financial banking. There's a lot of incentive to take out or control he, they, or she, basically. So I don't know.
Kit, do you have any theories?
We want to hear your theories here. We're going deep.
I think he's just gonna randomly move it somehow on an anniversary or like on the last Bitcoin mining or something like that. It's just gonna move and then that's gonna be it. And it's gonna be like, wait, what?
2040, 1 million coins is released into the new, protocol of, what we can mine now.
I don't know. It's a strange system, but it's really exciting because we're on the precipice of something potentially like earth or world changing. I just feel like money drives most actions in this world. Money drives action. It doesn't necessarily buy happiness, but it certainly incentivizes people to do something. I was listening to a podcast. I'm digressing and we'll move on to the next topic, but I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the influences of money. Money being, it could be Bitcoin, it could be money. But one of the gentlemen said, look at my desk. He's like, what do you think my desk is worth? He's like, I don't know, 20 bucks, $100. He's like, well, what if I give you $1,000? That $20, $100 desk is now not just a desk to you. Now it's an obstacle. So money changes your perspective of things, which is interesting. It's like you look at something, but when money is involved, it can be something fundamentally different. So a desk that was just a desk to you a moment ago, when offered $1,000, it's now a hurdle. So it is fascinating to think that even on that little micro scale of perspective, imagine what it can do on a global scale. So I think people overlook that. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. So Kit, backing up a little bit, taking a breath, because I ramble a lot. What was your introduction point to meditation? I always hear in like books and podcasts and, every CNBC article that is spammed to my phone by some ad. They always say that like the CEOs and the really successful people tend to be drawn to this like transcendental meditation. I'd love to know sort of like if there was sort of this like revelationary experience of you having with meditation? Was there like a moment where you felt sort of like, I don't know if this is corny, but like almost like reborn or refreshed to a degree? And after that moment, how did it change the way your relationship with meditation? Do you do it every day now? I'd just love to hear kind of like what meditation had in terms of effects on your life.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thanks for asking it.
Yeah.
I started listening to Shell Hamilton because as a podcaster, she did guided visualizations for sleep. And I used to have a really bad insomnia problem where I just like wouldn't go to sleep and then I'd have to work the next day. And I was like, some days it would be different or like I'd be taking naps and stuff, so it was a mess. And I was like, I've tried a lot of different things throughout the years. And I just finally decided to try meditation to try to get it under wrap. So it started off as a sleep thing, and then it's just morphed into like so much more, because meditation is basically just becoming aware of like your thoughts, which is just so crazy because we have like 70,000 thoughts a day, something like that. And a lot of the time they're negative. And so if you can become aware of that, you can really change like your mindset and like your mood. And that just like spills over into like your relationships and like how you perform at work and decisions that you make. And so I do it every single day, throughout the day when I need to. If I'm going on something like a date or something that I need to like relax or like just reset, something like that, I'll do that. One of the most critical times that I do it is before bed, but right before like you fall asleep or you're kind of in that sleepy state, I like to just like think about like an end state of what I want of something and kind of just do like a visualization of that. And it's really powerful to like, because your brain changes its brain wave at that point when you're about to go into sleep. And so you're kind of like breaking into your subconscious a little bit at that point, but it's just in that sleepy situation right before you're going to bed. And that's just like really powerful stuff right there. And so I like to do the sleep ones. There's guided visualizations. And yeah, I feel like it's just changed my overall like well-being. I'm like a lot more calm. I think before I even think, which is crazy kind of thing. Like I'll like observe a thought and I'm like, I'm not that thought. Like I don't agree with that. I don't mess with that bye kind of thing. And it doesn't mess with me. Like that could mess with someone else and they could attach that to themselves and be like, oh, I'm this horrible person or something. And it's like, nah, you don't have to agree with everything that comes into your head. You can like say yes or no to it. And meditation like helps you do that. And that can help you in like trading too. And we can get to that a little bit later also.
Definitely. I know.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
All right. Yeah, no, I used to meditate a few years ago and I did it for a few months and it was like really good. And then I was like, oh, it's like everything. You're like, oh, I'm feeling better or things are going well. I don't need to do it anymore. So you kind of like rest on your laurels and you're kind of like, I don't need to do it anymore. And then I kind of gave it up. And then, the pandemic hit. So that, affects everyone. And then I really got into reading. Not that it's a form of meditation, but in a way kind of guess for me. And maybe I did it a little bit during the beginning, but I just kind of, I guess, divvied up my time differently with, hanging out with my friends virtually and reading and doing different things. It's something that I never went back to fully, but it's something that I'm glad you're on. I'm definitely considering going back to it now, just trying to make it a habit as well. Go ahead, Ben. What were you going to add?
No, I really definitely want to try to implement the just sort of like the visualization towards the sleepy state of sleeping. I really do have a hard time going to sleep. And I don't know if necessarily I do need 6 hours. Maybe I do need more, but I just really struggle to fall asleep. So I'm going to try that. Talking about sort of how you have authority over your thoughts and being mindful all the time, that made me sort of think about Inception with the totems, like spinning the top to see if you're in a dream. But for this, it's like checking in to make sure that, are these thoughts productive? Are they reflective of me? I'd love to know, and you kind of mentioned it, that you meditate throughout the day. Is there something that me or really anyone else can do throughout their day to maybe practice that mindfulness, whether it's a breathing exercise or a thought exercise? I'd love to hear like what you can do during the day in the active time if you're not going to commit the time later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to do breathing exercises. You can kind of pick a number and be like, I'm going to count to 5, breathe in for 5, breathe out for 5, and do that 5 times or however many times you want to do it. Like it doesn't have to be this long hour, 30-minute thing. It could literally be just like a minute meditation where you're just like, I'm just like going to sit here. Even if you're in like a noisy place or something, when you get a lot of practice, like you can just like kind of just go inward and like be like, okay, this is my moment right now. I just need to recenter, think about it, think about my breathing, and then you're kind of good. That's like a short little 1 minute, 5-minute thing. You can do it in traffic. I'm not in traffic, but if you're like stopped at a stoplight or something and you need a breather, like make sure you see the light turn green and everything, but you can do it then. Try to just make it into a lifestyle. One big tip I'd say is go around and find someone's voice that you really like. That's like a big one. Like, don't just give up because you didn't like someone's meditation. Like you might like someone else's meditation.
That's a good point.
Um, and then the other thing with sleep meditations, once you do them over and over and over again, you don't really necessarily need the guided meditation podcast to listen to it. You're like basically training yourself and how to like do it. And you can just like do those breathing exercises. You can remember some of the phrases that you know that work with you, or do your own like body scan, which is just like relax your like muscles in your head, relax like your eyes, like relax your nose, your mouth, and just kind of like work your way down from there all the way to your toes. And you can do that on like a plane or anywhere that you need to do it, like on a bus or something where you might want to take a nap or something.
Yeah, no, those are really good tips. I really like those sort of like expedited modules to implement in life. Like I do the 8-minute abs when I'm feeling lazy, because you create these like no excuse environments for yourself. It's like, I have 8 minutes. There's no one in this earth that doesn't have 8 minutes to do something. And you especially have 5 minutes to reconnect with your thoughts. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. So I guess one last question before we get into the wrap-ups. I can't believe
I might have one more after this.
Oh, you have one more? All right. So we're not going to wrap up just yet. So I guess I have one question for you. So I don't want to know, obviously, how much Bitcoin you have. That's, sacrilegious. But are you all in, as in like someone that converted your 401k, your Roth IRA, even your money of trading into it? I know I will admit I am not there yet. I'm still have a 401k. I've got a Roth IRA. I put a lot of my money that I was trading and doing on the side, and I flipped into Bitcoin, and I'm trying to liquidate some stocks and stuff to go in there as well long term. But just curious, are you all in? Are you halfway like us? What's your ideals on it?
So when I was younger, I saved up money just to like invest. So I've taken all of that money and put it into that. And I also converted my 401k.
You did?
I did.
That's wild. That's awesome.
I had a very like special opportunity where I left my job in January. And when I left my job, Fidelity let me take it out. And with the pandemic, that kind of helped a little bit with fees. But I did take a very big tax hit, but I made it up the next week because of the price going up.
That's wild.
Which not everyone can do, but I just like, I don't know. I'm going to say I timed the market, but you can't do that.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Like what I've built over I'm coming in May, I'll be in the working world 6 years now. It'd be a really big tax hit for me. So that's my biggest hurdle. Like I would be willing to do it if I could avoid the taxes, but yeah, there's just a lot of factors that go into it basically.
Right. And then, so I started Roth IRA in 2020 and put a bunch of money towards that. And so that's still sitting there. I joined the GameStop and the AMC and all of that.
Yep.
And I've got some money where I've lost on a stock, and it's just, I bought Nikola before it IPO'd. It was the VTIQ beforehand. And I read up a lot of it. They had a lot of contracts. It looked good. And then that video the short seller came out and then the video where the truck was just going down the hill. I don't know how much you guys know about Nikola, but
yes, I was following them really tightly. Actually,
I lost money on Nikola, so
I didn't invest.
I went into them at like $67 a share, and I withdrew my funds at $40 a share after like it was kind of like I got stuck up in the hype, you know. I forego the financial analyst. I'm like, no, this is legit. This is good. They're with Tesla. I love Tesla. Let's go in. And I didn't put a lot of money. It was like a few $100, but I just saw it like get cut like, you know, by 20-30% basically. And I was like, all right, cut my losses, and I'm very happy I did.
Yeah, that was smart. I got in at the IPO, so when it shot up like 100% in a day, I was like, Dad, I'm a genius. And then I sold it, and then I rebought around like, I think 52 or something. Now it's at like 12, and I'm just like, oh, Dad, don't look at that, because my brother and my dad keep bringing up videos of it. I'm like, please don't.
It could come back. It could come back.
Right. No, I think so too. I'm holding on to it. I think electric 16-wheelers is a great idea. I wish they were self-driving, because sometimes at night when I'm doing those long road trips, I'm like, man, I don't know if that driver is like okay or not, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
self-driving 16-wheelers would just be amazing.
Talking about an investment idea, I do think that EV trucks, and whether they're autonomous or not, I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for investment. And it may be Nikola. It might be. Because even talking to truck drivers just through, the work that Chris and I do, trucking is a huge part of the business in the waste industry. Talking to the truckers, they're like, yeah, when you see a truck, drive past them. Like the trucker was even like, you have no idea what these trucks can do. And like a lot of times these truckers the laws have changed a little bit, but there's still ways to circumvent the hours. So some of these guys and gals are on the road for 12, 13 hours straight. It's so easy to zone out. I zone out after 25 minutes on the road. So yeah, you have to have some level of forgiveness there. So the autonomous part of that would be just huge for trucker safety. Even just like, I mean, this is not really an EV component, but the tires even explode. They talked about when you're driving past a truck, roll up your windows, because if those tires explode, it can be pretty catastrophic. So trucks are scary. Yeah, but also a good investment idea maybe.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to not throw everything you have into Bitcoin, but I have it there just in case I need to like convert it back into US dollar for expenses or something like that. It's just kind of sitting there. I'm like, oh, do I take another tax hit? Because I think you can withdraw like your Roth IRA money, like whatever you put in there, tax free.
Yeah.
Put it in there, but any of the gains like you get.
Yeah, I know you were just on. You were on BTC sessions, and I know he's like fully on the Bitcoin standard. He has like cold card wallet. He's got Wasabi. He does like everything. Like he's like I hold as little fiat as possible, and he takes loans against his Bitcoin and does like buys gift cards and does all these different crafty ways to avoid selling any of it basically. And he's basically just taking out, I guess, perpetual loans, or I guess even with his job when he takes some money from YouTube or whatever it may be, he just converts it right into it, or he'll leave some fiat to pay his bills, and then the rest goes into Bitcoin. So it's very interesting, the structure that he has outlined for him.
Oh yeah, that is the goal. And he's just done a great job with outlining all of it on tutorials. I'm like, thank you, goodness. Like that's just gonna help, I don't know, so many people. I don't know how he doesn't have more subscribers, which makes me really, really bullish, because one day all of these YouTube channels are gonna have like millions of subscribers,
I agree.
Yeah, some of the strategies I've seen online are probably very lucrative, but to me they're intimidating. Like I'm still like a very old school guy in the way that I invest. Like I still keep all my sort of like traditional investment accounts. I just really overweighted the future Bitcoin contributions. That's the way that I've done it, is like keep everything how it is, sort of still invest in everything, but the Bitcoin weighting, I never would have thought that I was going to get to where I'm at, where like it'll probably be half of my portfolio in the next few years, easily.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating. It's a fascinating invention. I believe in it. I don't think we'll ever need to sell it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm planning on loaning out against it for sure.
That's for sure. So one question before we start the wrap up, you had mentioned this about meditation influencing investment decisions. Do you have an example of maybe how it's influenced you, or even stories about that, and just how it's maybe influenced your investment thesis and mindset, anything?
Right. So there's the cycle of market emotions. I don't know if you guys have seen that chart where it starts out as like disbelief, hope, optimism, belief,
Yeah.
No, I
thrill.
haven't.
You get up to the euphoria, and then you start going down to like complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, anger, depression, and a little like disbelief or whatever. I actually learned about this. I bought a finance course, and through a food blogger friend recommended me him, and he follows a lot, some of those like coaches, lifestyle coaches I follow. So I was like, oh, this guy's cool. It's volatilealpha.com, and I learned about this chart. It's like anything you can just Google though, but realizing that like and not getting caught up in the hype, you can kind of use meditation to like recenter yourself and like not react. So whenever I do anything, like, you know, I can think before I react and go do something. It just helps me ground and center and be like, am I like about to zoom off into FOMO and buy this for like a YOLO or something? Or, you know, got to really do research on it beforehand. So that's kind of like an example there. With like buying GameStop and stuff, that was for the cause. You know?
It was the people's trade. I feel like there's an exception to be made there. It was fun.
Yeah, there was no meditation there. That was all for the memes.
That's for sure. No, I think
That's worth
that's
it.
really good advice. It's just being like, check yourself before you wreck yourself financially.
Yeah.
Because it especially if you're interacting with something like Robinhood. I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot in the show. The fact that there's like 2 buttons, like it's a beeper from like the 80s. It's so easy to buy that you're like, I'm just going to do it on my way to my next meeting. $1,000 gone. And then it goes to zero. You really have to take a step back. There's a reason why some of the old school brokerages make it look overly complicated, because it's sort of like it's like a filter for like logical thinking. You need to, you know, place the buy order, look up the stock. That's really an important thing, is just to keep emotions out of the equation. That's for sure.
It does. It adds that extra step of having to think about what you're actually doing in the trade and how to even put the trade into their UI, because it's not easy on some of these things. I used to be on T. Rowe Price. I'm on Thinkorswim. Hey guys, sorry about that. My
No
computer.
problem.
No worries.
Yeah. So Robinhood makes some of these trades look so easy. You just go in there and like they do a lot of the math and things for you. Whereas like I was using like T. Rowe Price and now I use Fidelity. It does take those extra steps to like figure out what you're doing and like what percentage of the stop loss order do you want to put in, things like that. Whereas like Robinhood, you can just, it's nice, but at the same time, you're not thinking too much about, should I even do this trade? Like you don't even have the time for the anxiety to come in and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't smash $1,000 into this trade or not.
Yeah, it's sort of mindless. Like if you're making a good investment decision, like there should have been, you know, some rough math at the very least, like taking a look at the stock, what is it worth, like looking at the revenue, even just loosely. But Robinhood, they don't even give you like financial history for the company. I mean, you just see price history, which again is sort of like fueling that FOMO vibe. You're like, oh, look in the past 5 years, it's gone up 1,000%. It's only going to do the same. That's not true. Rarely is that true. It's just dangerous the way that they structured it. So yeah, really good point.
You can't do technical analysis on it like you can do on Thinkorswim. I mean, theirs beats everyone out of the water.
For
But
sure.
even, I mean, like, I don't think the average person uses like Trading View or you'd know it exists. The only reason I know about that is because of the course that I purchased that goes through how to do technical analysis. Sorry. Yeah. So it's kind of wild where they're kind of like, oh, we're helping you. And then they try to put in this like these pop-ups with learnings in it. And I don't know. I guess I'm just bitter and salty because of GameStop stuff.
I mean, it's accurate though, right? I mean, they're not giving you the fundamentals to think through what makes a good investment decision. They're showing you how to smash the buy button, but that anyone can do that. You could train a sloth to do that if they have texting gloves or something. But like, they're
Smash
not
the buy
teaching
except on its meme stocks.
exactly. Well, because they don't have enough liquidity. They don't have enough money. It's classic.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're doing their due diligence there for people.
Yeah, so be careful, guys. I mean, there's always that next big thing. Again, I do want to credit where credit is due. Robinhood did create the $0 trade, $0 commission, but the world has evolved very quickly. So the benefits exist in almost every single brokerage. So like it's competitive again. So do your
Right.
homework. Yeah.
Yeah.
And say if you're not paying for the product, you're the product, which we've found out a little bit too. But it should be almost free to do a lot of this. It should be like easy to access, and people should be able to easily do it. So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, first, Kit, thank you so much for being on the show. This
Thank
was
you.
a blast, and it was really a refreshing discussion to talk about, something a little bit more internal. I think it's really easy for us to, jump to a stock valuation or what's Bitcoin doing today, but the real decisions come from within. And even Warren Buffett says, when I need advice, I just look in the mirror. And this episode, I feel like, pun intended, reflected that advice, because you need to look internally about like, why am I making this decision? Am I just doing it for external reasons? Like I saw it on Wall Street Bets. I saw it on a CNBC article because someone said to buy it. Thinking about the why and making that make sense for you, I think was huge. This is a question I always like to ask our guests. It's sort of a recurring thing. I'll give you two options. One, what is the worst investing mistake you've ever made? But because we're talking about sort of like meditation and mental health, maybe what is the worst like mindfulness decision or lack of mindfulness decision? Maybe in your meditation journey, a mistake you made or something that probably wasted a lot of time in the journey. I'll let you pick investment mistake or meditation mistake, if that exists.
Yeah. So the the investment mistake was definitely Nikola. I thought they were going to be like next Tesla, but they could come back. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Right now it's fingers crossed for sure. And then I don't know. I guess like before, like the way that it's affected me, I used to starting to date and stuff, like I just would like act different than I do now. So that was a transition for sure there. I'm way more calm. I'm like way more internal, like, I do a lot of self-love meditations, which is just like changes your whole life with like relationships with your family, friends, and significant others. So I think that that's like a really good thing to do if anyone watching this is like struggling with that. If you just like go in and do something like that, you'll be better off in that position. So that's my answer for that. Yeah.
All right. So this is the one that I always like to ask. So Kit, once again, thank you so much for coming on. But I guess, what's your favorite book, podcast, YouTube channel, website for investing information? I know you kind of already gave the books with, I already brought them up earlier in the episode, but I guess maybe what's your YouTube channel, website, or anything else that you like to reference for investing advice?
Absolutely. So just to give a shout out to the Bitcoin Standard, I think everyone should get that with their stimulus check. Like they should send that in the mail to everyone. But a YouTuber that I love, I've been watching him for like 4 years now, every single day. His name's Jake Ducey. He has a finance podcast, I Love Prosperity. And then he also has another channel, just Jake Ducey. And he goes over a lot of the stuff that I was mentioning today about meditation and going inward and just like how to basically, live life in a better way and like how to realize things that are like going on the outside. Just like a lot of good tips on how to like attract really amazing things in your life. So he's awesome. I like Andre Jick. I don't know if you guys watch him.
I love Andre as well. I watch a lot of Andre's stuff.
He's awesome. I came for the magic tricks and I did stay for the finance. And then also just Bitcoin Twitter. Shout out to all the plebs on there, man. They keep me going.
They're a wild bunch. If you're having a rough day, they keep it funny and lively.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So where can our community find out more about you? A website, blog, Twitter, anything? The floor is yours to pitch.
Absolutely. So my lifestyle blog is kitstanwood.com. I've got a Instagram handle as well, Kit_Stanwood. On Twitter,
It's at Kit_Stanwood, but it'll be Kit Stackin' Sats.
Love it.
And then my meditation podcast is called Cosmic Cloud Meditations. And I'm on all the big ones. I'm on Spotify, Apple, Google. I go through Anchor. So it just like is awesome and spurts my podcast out everywhere. I also have a YouTube channel for that as well too, and a website. So can't wait to finish. I'm doing a 30-day meditation sleep challenge right now. But I have a road trip coming up, so I've been trying to balance a lot of different stuff. So that's growing. I'm excited to keep it up though. It's really good.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. No, those are great. And we'll make sure to link everything in our show notes, in our newsletter, and every channel that we have through Podbean and such. So Kit, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris and Ben. I appreciate you guys having me on so much. This is an honor. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
It's a truly an honor for us. Thank you for coming on. Everyone else, smash the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Write a review if you're listening on podcasts, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, our website, you name it. You can go there and reach out to us. It's been a pleasure. Catch you guys next week.
See you next week.